Part 112. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1111. Zuyun came back to his senses in fear. The shadows of the 12 monsters suddenly turned into a ray of light and shrank back into the corresponding totem poles. In just a blink of an eye, all the totem poles were scattered around this. When the universe was shaking, the night sky also changed dramatically. Originally, there were only a few stars that made up the 28 constellations, but suddenly, thousands of stars appeared. The light of the stars, shining against each other, although not obvious, also made Zuyun amazed. This is the world, the night sky that should be there. Suddenly, Zuyun found a full moon. It appeared at some point, as if it should be here. In another blink of an eye, the full moon set in the west, and the east gradually showed a fish belly white. The light of the stars also gradually disappeared. As the rays of light fell, the sun began to rise in the east, and the universe gradually lit up. Suddenly, Zuyun felt that he had returned to his childhood and was watching the sun rise on the top of a barren stone mountain. It's just that Dago and Ergo are missing. Is this time appearing in the universe? Zuyun didn't know why he had such an idea, but what was certain was that the totem pole had indeed brought changes to the universe. The 12 phantoms of the monsters, speaking in unison, still lingered in his ears. In the words, it meant that destiny had been fulfilled, and the law was also mentioned. Time is also one of the laws. Zuyun looked up at the sky. The stars were nowhere to be seen. He pondered for a moment, and suddenly understood a truth. A world should have thousands of laws. There is time and space. There is life and death, and reincarnation. Only when the laws of the universe are fully formed, will it become a real world. And obviously, the universe at this time has already taken shape. As for what is still missing, perhaps he can ask the ancestral tree to find out. He didn't want to ask Nujiao. Because if Nujiao knew, the immortal emperor back then would not have failed to refine the world. I don't know where I have taken one more step than the immortal emperor. Thinking of this, Zuyun breathed a sigh of relief. I think the 12 great monsters carrying the destiny must contain a certain law. But he didn't know which law it was. However, it didn't matter at this time. As the sun set again, the vibration of the universe world gradually stopped. Zuyun got up and returned to the world lake. The ancestor tree has shrunk back to its original size, but the wood spirit holy mountain is still stretching. In comparison, the ancestor tree seems more ordinary. Master, the universe world has changed again. The ancestor tree turned into a human form, stroked his beard, and said meaningfully to Zuyun. What kind of change is it? Zuyun asked with a smile. You don't know. I don't know. Xiaxia was choked for a moment, and he couldn't pretend to have that expression. He had to smile bitterly and said, originally, there were signs of creatures slowly appearing in this world, but the shock just now seemed to be the real origin of life. Next, the speed of life will be faster. Because there is more time. Zuyun seemed a little confused. Didn't time always exist? And no matter how the 12 major demon tribes were connected, they could not be connected to time. Xiaxia knew that Zuyun couldn't guess the reason, so he was like this. It was a pity that Zuyun didn't buy his tricks, so he had to say helplessly, Master, in fact, my origin power has already spread to the instrument fairy in this world, and I have had in-depth exchanges with him. Oh? Then what do you know? Zuyun was not surprised at this, because the formation fairy told him that the origin power of the world tree would also slowly grow, and the scope of control would also be expanded. This is not a bad thing for Xianxia, because the great universe-colored glass mirror is controlled by others, which means that he is no longer imprisoned by the great universe-colored glass mirror. It will be much easier for Zuyun to reshape his immortal body. Moreover, he knows that the world tree belongs to Zuyun. The more the world tree knows, the better it is for him. Therefore, he told the ancestral tree all the information he knew. At this time, he was staying at the volcano, waiting for Zuyun to come. But obviously, Zuyun had no time to care about him at this time. Sunrise is a day, and moonset is a night. Day and night are 12 hours a day. Originally, there was day and night here, but there was no sun and moon, so the rules of time were not complete and were affected by the rules of the great universe world. But now, the great universe world has its own time rules, and it will have nothing to do with the great universe world in the future. Hearing this, Zuyun was stunned. He couldn't tell whether this was a good thing or a bad thing. He murmured, "Then what caused this change?" The ancestor tree pointed to the sky and said, "Of course it comes from the fairy light. The fairy light is the light of the fairy world, which contains all the laws of the fairy world. After entering the universe, it will naturally supplement the missing rules of this world accordingly. It's a pity that the fairy light is still too little to complete all the laws." Looking at the ancestor tree with a slightly regretful expression, Zuyun's mind was a little confused. Fairy light and fairy power are different, but they have similarities. Fairy power and fairy power are also different. For example, his chaos power is a kind of fairy power, called chaotic fairy power, also known as the law of chaos. Like the formation fairy, in fact, it uses various laws to arrange the formation, and what he is best at is the law of space. For the great universe immortal, it is the law of time. Such supreme laws are actually rare in the immortal world. But there is no difference in immortal power, and no difference in laws. The only thing to compare is who understands it more thoroughly. And obviously, whether it is Zuyun now or Zushu, their understanding of the law is still superficial. Zuyun has always been open-minded. He can't get a complete answer from Zushu, so he simply returns to the previous question and says, "Then tell me, is it good or bad for me?" Zushu thought about it and said, "There are good and bad." Zuyun smiled, "Then let's hear the bad news first. The bad news is that the Great Universe Glass Mirror will be completely separated from the Great Universe Glass Mirror and become an independent individual. And originally, their connection was that the time law in the Great Universe Glass Mirror affected the Great Universe Glass Mirror." Zuyun knew this. The difference in the time flow rate in the Great Universe Glass Mirror is exactly the same as that in the Great Universe World. It has been like this since he obtained the Great Universe World. But they separated. How can I get in later? Seeing Zuyun frown, Ziushu smiled and said, "In the future, the Master can enter the Great Universe World at will, and will not leave the Great Universe Colored Glass Mirror in the outside world." Suddenly, Zuyun was extremely ecstatic. He has always been troubled by this problem. He is afraid that after entering the immortal mansion, the Great Universe Colored Glass Mirror left behind will be picked up and refined by others. Even an ordinary cultivator can recognize that this colorful glass light is a supreme treasure. Now, his worries are solved. However, Ziushu's words interrupted Zuyun's joy. The premise is that the Master first leaves a mark in my soul, or in other words, on the origin of this world. Otherwise, if you leave this time, you may never find the Great Universe World again, and it will become one of the free worlds in the void. Just like I can't find the Chaos Sword. Zuyun put away his thoughts and asked. To be honest, he was not used to leaving soul marks on people, and always felt that it was inappropriate. Zushu understood Zuyun's character, and he had lowered his head while speaking, which was one of the reasons why he turned into a human form this time. "Master, you only need to treat me as an ordinary spirit. As my strength grows, I know the fate of our World Tree clan." Fate. Yes, fate. It is to support a world. Only in this way can it be a qualified world tree. Zushu said loudly. Zuyun also remembered what Zushu told him in the early years. There is a world tree on a world star. Each world tree will produce a tree seed. When the tree seed grows to a certain level, it will stagnate. Because it is impossible for two fully formed world trees to exist on a world star at the same time, which will cause the disorder of heaven and the collapse of laws. Zuyun merged the world tree into this world, and Huang Mingxing's world tree will continue to produce a tree seed, waiting for the next destined person. Of course, after this world is formed, the realm of the world tree will also break through. In the end, a tree seed will also be born, appearing in a corner and taking root. In this way, the world star will continue to grow. Zuyun immediately understood this truth. He nodded slightly and stretched out his hand to press on the forehead of the ancestor tree. The power of the soul came out bit by bit, but Zuyun had no thoughts, but under the soul of the ancestor tree, it formed a sapling. And Zuyun was also surprised to find that he could clearly perceive this world through the ancestor tree, all the wind and grass movements within the range controlled by the ancestor tree. In the south, in the deep pit, rainwater was poured into it at some point, forming a small pool, and some active insects appeared in the pool. He probed the soul to the other directions, and felt the subtle vitality. The consciousness of the ancestor tree told him that these were all changes brought about by the previous fairy light. In comparison, the spiritual medicines before had already condensed spiritual wisdom, but now the spiritual wisdom is even greater. Zuyun remembered that it was the immortal light that carried the myriad laws of the immortal world. Thinking of the medicine garden in the immortal mansion, the spiritual intelligence of those spiritual medicines skyrocketed, and Zuyun's eyes gradually showed a brilliant light. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1112. Although I don't understand the rules yet, at least there are rules in my world. So, when I have time, can I enter the world of the universe and understand the laws? But soon, the voice of the ancestral tree rang in his mind. The laws of this world are still very weak. Like a newborn baby. Even if he was born in the immortal world, he was born a true immortal. But can such a true immortal teach Zuyun the principles of law? The answer is obviously no. I don't know how long it will take for the great universe world to form a complete world. Zuyun whispered, and the ancestral tree also said that he had been connected with the origin of the universe. To make him stronger, either add more creatures, or merge the fragments of the universe world again. When it comes to placing living beings, Zuyun always feels that it is not enough to simply put the living beings into it. At least there is a rule in the great universe world. Only by recognizing Zuyun as his master can he be included in the great universe world. What about fragments? If your guess is correct, the immortal emperor should have died near the yellow star, which is why so many fragments of the cosmic glass mirror were found in this world. Not to mention that Deyu and Daes who have been completely separated, even if it's still one body, but I can't feel any fragments. For the time being, I can only go step by step and complete the things at hand. Zuyun quickly made a decision. Whether it was the universe world or the immortal mansion, the best decision was to let them develop naturally. The immortal light was of great benefit. Changes can be induced again, allowing the universe to advance to another level. So for now, you still need to practice slowly. After Zuyun came out of the immortal mansion, he headed southwest again, putting the 5 elements sect aside for the time being. The purpose of this trip is for Zhen Haizong to find De Go and Meng Wu Yat. As long as we find these two people, we may be able to find Ergu again. As for the other characters mentioned in the list, he couldn't control that much. Zuyun's idea is very simple, to bring them into the immortal mansion to practice. Their talents are actually very common in the spiritual world. If they practice step by step, it will be difficult for their realm to keep up with the increase in lifespan. Sooner or later, they will run out of lifespan and die. Zuyun couldn't control others, but he couldn't control his own siblings' childhood. In this spiritual world, he at least has the power to protect himself. Even if he is defeated, he can hide directly in the universe world without leaving the Dao-glazed mirror behind. Then naturally Zuyun will no longer have any taboos. Big Dog and Ergu are people he completely trusts. In the immortal mansion, lifespan still refers to the time flow rate in the outside world, which is equivalent to their lifespan increasing about 10 times out of thin air. No matter how talented they are, it is still enough. If it is still insufficient, Zuyun can refine the longevity pill for them. Talent is not enough for them to live forever, but Zuyun can help them live forever. As for Mengwei, Zuyun hasn't thought about it yet. Because there are slaves in the fairy palace. He didn't know what the relationship was between Nujiao and Mengwei. Not only they look exactly the same, but sometimes even their smiles are exactly the same. He had a suspicion that Mengwei was the incarnation of Nujiao. But Nujiao didn't know it and never mentioned it, which made Zuyun a little suspicious. But at least Nujiao has no ill intentions towards Zuyun. If Mengwei really wants to be put into the immortal mansion, the premise is to let Nujiao leave first. I don't know how her sword skills are. Zuyun sighed, that's why he would not go to the Five Elements sect to steal the fragments for the time being. Although it was related to Xianxia, he still wanted to find Big Dog and Ergu as soon as possible. In this way, he will have nothing to worry about. As he headed southwest, Xianxia also came to Tianweishan. A god-forming stager followed behind her, and the journey was uneventful. At this time, the monks wandering outside and inside the sky, or looking for treasures, are at best nascent soul. During the divine transformation stage, they would just release their momentum a little and be more high profile, but within dozens of miles, they would flee. Sect Master, the Sword Valley is ahead. In the transformation stage, he pointed to the front with a humble expression and said. Very good, Xianxia said lightly, fill in the valley. Huashankai suddenly opened his eyes wide, thinking that he heard wrongly. With his ability at this time, it is not difficult to fill the valley. But the movement caused. It's not like there are no strong people in Tianweishan. If it alarms a monk who is above the void refining stage. Let alone him, Xianxia would die. Sect Master, this. What, is it difficult? Xianxia raised her eyebrows and her eyes glowed with golden light. It's not difficult, it's not difficult, the god transformation stage quickly lowered his head, not daring to look again, and said euphemistically, the movement of filling the grain is too big. Are you afraid that there is a powerful person in the outer world? In the transformation stage, his face turned pale, and he knew that this movement might really attract people. But you don't know whether the other party will take action or not. Once he takes action, he doesn't know whether Xianxia will die or not, but once he takes action, he will definitely die first. But if you don't take action, he is going to die now. He took a deep breath and said, Sect Master, my subordinates are going to fill the grain now. After bowing slightly, he jumped into the air and flew towards the Sword Valley. A cold smile appeared on Xianxia's face. Feng Qingyang, I didn't expect you to become the Lord of Sword Valley. I couldn't do anything to you back then, but thinking that you could accompany me to enlightenment of the heavenly book, and your mothers for the sake of my arrival in the spirit world, I didn't have to argue with you, but in the end, you abandoned me for Zuyun on the immortal platform, then you can only dispel the hatred in my heart by dying. There is no need to exist. In the Sword Valley. After the sudden change in the world, Feng Qingyang managed to make things better, and his development turned out to be impressive. However, Jiangu is also extremely low-key, and seems to be making a fortune in spite of his reputation. In particular, many monks suddenly appeared from the four mortal realms, and most of them were in the outer world. Many people came here to build a handy spiritual sword. This not only greatly increased the strength of the Feng family's children, but also increased the Feng family's financial resources. It has a good reputation recently, and it has spread to Zhou Yingxia's ears because of this. Originally, Zhou Yingxia would not pay too much attention, but unexpectedly, he heard a familiar name. Feng Qingyang turned out to be the master of Sword Valley. It even broke through to the nascent soul stage. This makes Zhou Yingxia, who is extremely proud, simply unable to accept it. I have the heavenly book and the immortal light, and I am only in the nascent soul stage. Boom. At the stage of transformation, just by slightly squeezing the magic formula, the situation in the Sword Valley changed. The peaks around the valley kept trembling, and countless rocks rolled down, killing many ordinary disciples who were practicing the chain, hammer and iron method in the open space. At the same time, the ground also collapsed, and countless buildings that had existed for countless years also collapsed. Screams continued, and ordinary disciples ran around in a hurry. Those at the higher level of the Dan formation stage used their magical powers to rescue the disciples in the valley. Sword Valley is a sect force, but it is also a cultivating family. All the disciples have the blood of the Feng family. And under the leadership of Feng Qingyang, they are extraordinarily united. But in this world of immortality where the jungle prevails, weakness is the original sin. They had no idea that all of this was caused by a person in the God transformation stage. As the spiritual power circulated more and more violently, the vibrations in the mountains became stronger and stronger, and the entangled gray-white spiritual power was finally discovered. Senior, why are you attacking our Sword Valley? As the head of the family, Feng Qingyang rose into the sky and said in an extremely humble voice at a height lower than that of the divine transformation stage. No reason. The God transformation stage waved lightly in the air, and Feng Qingyang fell on his head, falling heavily to the ground, and then fell unconscious. The same was true when they saw the head of the family, and countless clan members showed expressions of despair. If it is a natural disaster, they can still bear it. But this is clearly a man-made disaster. An hour later, the place was razed to the ground. In order to avoid causing greater shock in the transformation stage, he did not take the initiative to kill people, because this would not only waste his spiritual power and time, but also cause more blood to spread out. The killings from all over the world will always attract the attention of others. This is not what he wants to see. Of course, if someone was thrown to death or hit by a boulder, he wouldn't care too much. He also believed that the burial of mountains and rocks would somewhat isolate the flesh and blood in these valleys. It's time to go back and give the sect master his life. The transformation stage sighed, turned around and returned to where he was. Sect master, fortunately you have lived up to your destiny. He clasped his fists, still not daring to look directly into Zhou Yingxia's eyes. Go to Yaoang Valley. Zhou Yingxia turned around calmly. Yaoang Valley. There was a look of astonishment on the face of the God transformation stage. He had been to Tianweishan many times, but he had never heard of this valley. How could he lead the way? It is also a new force. Zhou Yingxia showed a smile, not gloomy. Because she believed that this was no coincidence. Of course, it didn't matter whether it was a coincidence or not, she just wanted to get some elixir. Half a day later, in a valley shrouded in clouds and mist. Senior who? Zhou Yingxia looked at the old man in front of her and called her senior, but she was not polite at all. Are you, Zhou Yingxia, the daughter of Zhou Jingguo, the leader of the Fire Dragon sect? Hu Chong looked through his long-standing memories and recognized the person in front of him. He was very surprised. He was not surprised by the otherworldly aura on Zhou Yingxia's body, but was surprised by the unfathomable aura of the man behind him with his lowered eyebrows. He can be said to be the earliest monk who came from the eastern mortal realm recently. But it is still the peak of the late nascent soul. The 3000 Great Dao, the path other than chi refining, is extremely difficult to break through. Therefore, he never caused the minor calamity. Senior who has a profound memory, and the little girl admires him deeply. Xianxia smiled brightly and said, I learned that my senior has also arrived in the spirit world, so I came here to celebrate. Hu Chang shook his head and turned half sideways. I've been here not long ago and I don't have much elixir. You can go in by yourself. If you like something, just take it. He could tell that the person who came was evil. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1113. Senior Hu, the little girl said she was just here for a visit, not to commit robbery. Xianxia said coquettishly. It's a pity that I don't know Hu Chang, an old man who mainly practices medicine and medicine. Xianxia, if you want to, just say it openly. Hiding it like this makes me look down on you. Crack. As soon as Hu Chang finished speaking, there was a heavy slap on the left cheek. It was the God transformation stage who took action. If you dare to be rude to the sect master, slap your mouth. As a servant, you must have the consciousness of a servant. Although Xianxia didn't say it, he could tell. The force was not strong, because Xianxia obviously liked the situation at this time, and he did not dare to destroy it. That's why I will stay strong. Hu Chang turned his head, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and actually laughed. Sect Master Zhong, I am a guest from afar. I should send you off with courtesy. Come. With a command, 11 figures suddenly appeared out of thin air. There are men and women, but they are obviously not weak. Valley Master. The 11 people saluted one after another, with angry looks in their eyes. It was obvious that they had also seen the scene that happened not far away. I met an old friend in a foreign land. I didn't expect to meet my old friend's daughter in this spiritual world. She should be given a good gift. You go and carefully collect all the elixirs, and then give them to Sect Master Zhong as a meeting gift and a congratulatory gift. The faces of these people became extremely ugly. They expected that Hu Chang wanted to settle the matter. I didn't expect it would be such a big price. The first is a meeting gift from Sect Master Zhong, and the second is a congratulatory gift from Sect Master Zhong on becoming the Sect Master. You go. Hu Chang waved his hand, his tone unquestionable. Yes, Valley Master. Everyone dispersed, and the God transformation stage retreated behind Xianxia. Xianxia said with a smile, I can't do it, I can't do it, Senior Hu, this gift is too big. It's not big, it's not big. There isn't much else in this world, but there are a lot of elixirs. It's inexhaustible and it can't be used up. If it's gone today, I'll just send them to the mountains to collect it tomorrow. Hu Chang still smiled. At this time, the God transforming stage spoke again, Sect Master, there are so many talented people in the Medicine King Valley, it is not difficult to collect some medicine. Oh. Xianxia raised her eyebrows, turned her head, and looked at the transformation stage. So, in about a month, we can come and visit Senior Hu again. Satire. Naked irony. A person who is in the stage of transforming into a god is talking about a person who is in the stage of nascent soul as a senior. There are so many talented people, so why are there so many talented people? Xianxia asked with interest. The 11 people summoned by the Valley Master just now are all demon saints. Xianxia was only in the nascent soul stage. Even if she possessed immortal light, she was still in the nascent soul stage. Because the fairy light was scattered fairy light that entered her body unintentionally. It is different from the fairy light that Zuyun ushered in. Therefore, Xianxia is still in the ordinary nascent soul stage. She couldn't feel the deliberate breathing of the 11 demon saints. But it can't be hidden from this divine transformation stage. If that's the case, why don't we come back to see Senior Hu in half a month? This god-forming stage has figured out Xianxia's path, and said with a smile, Sect Master, Senior Hu is such an easy-to-talk senior, we should finish our work and see him on the way back. From now on, we can do it every once in a while. Have a look. Practicing the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra is inseparable from the 5 spirit pills. And Xianxia is even more so. She has a single fire spirit root. Because of the fairy light, her body has been slightly modified, and her spiritual roots have also been affected. In other words, she can practice any kind of spiritual power attribute. But being in the 5 elements sect, Xianxia chose the 5 elements Chaos Sutra. Because in her eyes, this is a heavenly book. A heavenly book that can surely lead to immortality. But her situation is more complicated than that of Zuyun, so if she wants to succeed in cultivation, she must take more 5 spirit pills. Obviously, Medicine King Valley became her place to collect medicine. During this stage of transformation, he is even more willing to cooperate. I don't ask for merit, but I ask that the sect master remember him more so that he will suffer less in the future. To put it bluntly, it's like competing for favor among the sect's god-forming disciples. You are right, but this sect leader still needs to practice. From now on, he will come to Yaoang Valley every 3 days, and you will do it for him. My subordinates will definitely live up to their orders. During the transformation stage, he was overjoyed, even though it took up his time to practice. But there is no doubt that there will be many contacts with Xianxia in the future. The important thing is that there is no need to follow Xianxia to do things that may be dangerous at any time. Such as filling up a valley in the sky. At this time, a group of demon saints had returned. With their level, it would not take much time to collect the elixirs in the entire valley. The wooden boxes quickly stacked up to form a hill at the mouth of the valley. After Xianxia put everything away, she smiled and said to Hu Chang, "This junior is so disrespectful. I have important things to attend to today. Come see Senior Hu in a few days." After that, she turned and left. But the transformation stage did not keep up. It wasn't until Xianxia's figure disappeared that the transformation stage said calmly, "I don't know when I'll come back next time, but during these days, don't slack off in preparing elixirs, otherwise, you can go and inquire about Sword Valley. News, that will be your fate." These words made the 12 people present feel shocked and angry, but unfortunately, no one dared to move. Because he released the aura of the god transformation stage. For a long time, a demon saint with a charming face came forward and said to Hu Chang, "Master Hu Valley, he is only in the stage of becoming a god. We demon saints are not restricted by realm, so we can fight with him. What kind of sect master is not a sect master? It's just the nascent soul stage." "Holy Rabbit, don't be aggressive," a man wearing a golden crown said solemnly, "my master often warns me, before you act, if you act on your own will, we will be the only ones who suffer in the end." "Yes, Lao Jin is right," a man with a wise face and a goatee came forward, stroked his hand and said, "You all think about it carefully. Back then in the East Mortal realm, we were 11. The great demon clan was fooled around by a nightmare demon king. Now that we have come to the spirit world, we know ourselves but don't know each other. These 11 people are the demon kings of 11 of the 12 demon clans. They handed all the totem poles to Zuyun, and after another period of time, they came to the spirit world. And their realm has long reached the extreme of the mortal world, and after they decided to practice again, their minds were extremely open-minded, and they successively triggered demon tribulations and became demon saints, and their strength increased greatly. But compared to the peak of the late stage of transformation, it is still insufficient. In other words, they do not have full confidence to deal with the transformation stage. Because they have never fought against anyone. They had not practiced properly for hundreds of years or even thousands of years. After they arrived at Medicine King Valley, they decided to settle down in a corner and practice properly for a while. After practicing, he helped Hu Chang collect some elixirs and plant them in the valley. But he never thought that he would welcome an uninvited guest like Xianxia. The matter is too complicated, Hu Chang sighed and said, what Lao Jin said is right. We have no choice but to follow their requirements. We should collect medicines during this period. Of course, don't forget to ask about Zuyun. We only have a short time in the spiritual world, so we need to be careful. When they first came to the spirit world, their eyes were filled with darkness. For the sake of immortality, they could only swallow their anger temporarily. Of course, it's temporary. As everyone knows, Zuyun also plans to stay away from the Five Elements sect temporarily. In other words, they still have many hard days to endure. How about I go find the Demon Dragon clan? If the Demon Dragon Emperor is strong enough, considering the past years, maybe things will turn around. At this time, another demon saint said. Everyone looked and saw that it was the dog demon saint. If the demon dragon was upright, I'm afraid he would have discovered that we are here a long time ago. Brother Dayang snorted and said, have you ever known the dragon demon emperor who left with his clansmen? There is no sympathy for him anymore. Everyone was silent again. Yes, no one recognizes the demon dragon emperor. Of course, they didn't know that only Longwu was left in the demon dragon clan. How about, I go find the Phoenix clan? The speaker was the chicken demon saint. Do you think such a magical beast will pay attention to us? Everyone knows the idea of the chicken demon saint, but it is obviously unrealistic. The Jinjiao clan still has true dragon blood, but Lao Jin never mentioned this. You have to try it. Chicken demon saint gave a strong laugh and said, I can feel that the ancestral land of the Phoenix clan is not far from our place. Some time ago, when I was collecting medicine, I felt an extremely pure, the Phoenix fire aura swept away. Another point is that the Phoenix clan and the true dragons are arrogant and look down on some demon clans with their blood, but the Phoenix clan is extremely protective of us. For the sake of the chicken demon clan, maybe I can help. Are you sure you can find the Phoenix clan's ancestral land? This was one of the reasons why they originally rejected the idea of chicken demon saint. But if you have hope, you have to give it a try. I'm just saying that it's better than sitting back and waiting for death. People are greedy. The valley owner finally found this valley that is most suitable for our cultivation, but it has become a place for others to collect medicine. If this matter is not resolved, we will never have peace. As he spoke, the chicken demon saint raised his head and looked in the direction of the far east and said, it's just that after I leave, you will have to work harder and collect more medicine. This is nothing, Hu Chang said, I also went to collect medicine. This incident made me uneasy and naturally I was unable to continue practicing. Everyone was silent. An hour later, the chicken demon saint turned into a streak of fire and flew towards the extreme east. He still had nothing to say. The Feng people protect their shortcomings, very protective of their shortcomings. But this package does not include their chicken family. At this time, Zuyun also came to the shore of the wild sea. The waves crashed against the rocks, and the water vapor was particularly heavy. He stood on a huge rock and looked at a mountain gate a mile away. True Haizong. With his divine eyes, he saw the 3 words on the door plaque at a glance. But, he wasn't ready yet on how to get in. Although no one with the entire sect's strength could be Zuyun's opponent, it was the sect that took them in, and Zuyun didn't want to cause displeasure. Besides, he just hasn't figured out how to settle Mengwei. Let the big dog enter the fairy mansion and let Mengwei follow you. Just when he was extremely entangled in his heart, he saw a familiar figure walking from a distance, heading towards the sect. Zuyun opened his mouth blankly and saw the 2 foundation building cultivators guarding the door bowing and saluting. Seeing that the figure was about to enter the sect, Zuyun blurted out, and his voice was heard far away. Xiu, is that you? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1114. Zuyun. Xiu turned her head in disbelief, then turned into surprise, and flew towards Zuyun. Why are you in Zhenhai sect? The two said in unison. You say it first. Same thing again. Zuyun touched the back of his head and no longer declined. Meeting old friends and having experienced life and death together, there was nothing to be polite about. I'm looking for someone, what about you? When did you come to the spiritual world? Zuyun said with a smile. You've been here not long ago. Seeing that your aura is not weak, I guess you must be in the stage of becoming a god. Xiu looked up and down, and found that her own level was not inferior at all, and the other person's level was far beyond her awareness. Of course, Zuyun smiled heartily and said, you are not bad, you are also in the nascent soul stage. However, you haven't answered me yet, why are you in Zhenhai sect? Xiu also smiled and said, in the mortal world, I have a supporter, but in the spiritual world, I have no relatives, so I have to find a sect to rely on, right? Zuyun nodded, that was indeed the case. He had also told those monks in other mortal realms that it was best to stick together or find a sect to rely on. Starting from scratch, letting go of your body in the mortal world and embarking on the long journey of cultivating immortality is nothing. But how come you are here and not in the 9 Netherlands? What makes Zuyun strange is this. Logically speaking, the magic cultivator should be in the land of Juyu, which is more suitable for her future development. It's a long story, Xiu said with slightly dim eyes. I originally wanted to stay in Juyu land, but after finally coming to the spirit world, I just wanted to find my sister. My sister and brother-in-law have an agreement to go to the Sword Valley in Tianweishan, so naturally I will not stay in Juyu land. We are just going to Tianweishan from Juyu land. Where can we find the monks who have just come from the lower world? Lu. He also happened to meet the founding sect of Zhenhaizong, so he simply joined it. Are you talking about listening to Feng Amozun? Zuyun also remembered Nangong Tingfeng, and even learned from Feng Qingyang that Nangong Tingfeng stayed in Juyu, but Jiu came to Tianweishan. She should still be in the 9 Netherlands. I brought your brother-in-law to the spirit world, but later we parted ways for some reason. However, now your nephew is lucky and has become the master of a valley. Having said this, Zuyun couldn't help but laugh. My nephew? Are you talking about Feng Qingyang? Looking at the surprised Xiu, Zuyun nodded with a smile. Lord of the Valley, Sword Valley. Zuyun continued to nod, and Xiu's eyes suddenly lit up. When she was still in the lower realm, Nangong Tingfeng had always been determined to die. She saw it, but didn't say it. Perhaps meeting Feng and he in the spirit world was just an excuse, and sending Feng Qingyang to the spirit world to seek better development was her real idea. No wonder she stayed in Juyu land. Xiu suddenly felt that she had guessed her sister's thoughts. After pondering in her heart, she said, then I will go back to Juyu land to find my sister. Zuyun, please wait here while I return to the sect and resign as the guest elder. After saying that, without waiting for Zuyun's response, he ducked back to the sect gate. Zuyun originally wanted to follow him, but after thinking about it, he decided to wait and see what happens. Xiu acted vigorously and resolutely. At this time, he was thinking about Nangong Tingfeng with all his heart. If she wanted to go, she could go. Everyone has their own ideas, and you can't force them on you. Just like Big Dog and Ergu, if he couldn't convince them, Zuyun wouldn't force them into the immortal mansion to practice. Otherwise, it is tantamount to destroying their Taoist heart. Of course, the possibility of this is very small. Zuyun believes that his 2 good brothers will listen to his opinions. Zuyun stood quietly on the rock, but an hour passed and Xiu still hadn't come out. On the contrary, he vaguely heard the noise. He frowned slightly and thought to himself, does Jinhai sect master not want Xiu to leave? Also, for a newly established sect, the nascent soul stage is definitely the backbone. Otherwise, if Xiu, a demon cultivator, appeared here, would Jinhaizong still accept her as a guest elder? Now that Xiu is leaving as soon as she says it, there is a possibility that the other party won't agree. Thinking of this, Zuyun's figure flashed and appeared at the entrance of the sect. The two foundation building stages only felt a figure flash before their eyes, but in just a blink of an eye, there was no sound. Senior brother Chen, someone just broke in. One person said. Are you kidding? We have a sect protecting formation. Except for the sect master, anyone who comes in needs us to activate it. But, I really seem to see a figure. The man was a little older, well-informed, and said meaningfully, you will understand if you guard the door for a few more years and suffer losses for a few more years. He still didn't understand such an instruction. He looked puzzled but said sternly, Senior brother Chen, we are all rogue cultivators. Without the sect master to take us in, we would still be a mayfly in the spiritual world. The sect master said that if there is any trouble, our responsibilities must be reported. The sect is newly established, and we must not neglect it. The elder Jijiki smiled slightly, yes, you are right. If so, you go report it to the sect, I will guard you here. Okay, senior brother Chen, don't worry. If I really discover something, I will tell the sect leader that we discovered it together. During this foundation building period, he took out a formation plate, handed it to the other party, then turned around and ran towards the sect. After he disappeared from sight, the monk curled his lips and said, if I hadn't seen it, the hundreds of years of cultivation would have been transformed into a dog. People turn a blind eye to this large formation, and they enter directly from the gate, which shows their strength. So strong. Originally, I could stay here and wait and see. If I were an enemy, I could run away, but if I were a friend, I could stay. Now, if you bring this matter to light, I can only run away. As he spoke, he took out the array disc from his arms and threw it in a corner. Then he took out a magic sword from the storage bag, stepped on it, and flew towards the sky over the wild sea. The sea area is vast, and even if the sect discovers that he has left his post without permission or even escaped from the sect, it will be difficult to pursue him. At this time, on the top of the main hall of the Jinhai sect, Zuyun was sitting on top with a golden sword, listening to the fierce quarrel coming from below. When he entered the sect, he had already gathered away all his aura. Not to mention that those foundation building pills couldn't detect it, not even their sect leader was aware of it during the confrontation with Xiu. It stands to reason that his peak in the late nascent soul stage is acceptable. But whoever let it go, Xiu suddenly had to say goodbye. It has not been long since he ascended to the immortal secret realm, and Xiu is a part of his plan. If she were to leave, the plan would be greatly compromised, and it would also make him more dangerous. Not to mention, Xiu still has to take Ergu with her. Until this moment, Zuyun didn't know that he had completely guessed it wrong after hearing what he said at that time. The man and woman who came to Jinhaizong were none other than Ergu and Xiu. They passed through the land of Juyu. Xiu wanted to find Nangong Tingfeng, and Ergu wanted to find Dego and Mengwia. Even though they were practicing magic, they had no intention of staying. So they hit it off immediately, and the two of them walked together from the land of Juyu to the outer world. But they had just come from the mortal world and were not familiar with the place. They happened to see the founding sect of Jinhaizong on the edge of the sea area. At Ergu's suggestion, they joined it. Both of them are in the nascent soul stage, and Jinhai sect is also employing people, so Jinhai sect master will naturally recruit them. Originally, they only used Jinhaizong as a springboard, and would leave if there was corresponding news. But the problem is that they did not greet the sect leader in advance. No one would agree to say goodbye at this time. Sect Master, I ask myself whether I have ever felt sorry for Jinhai sect. Even during this trip, I helped you complete your mission. How did I get in then, and how am I going to get out now? Nangang Xiu only has Nangang Tingfeng in her heart now, but Jinhai Zong took them in for a while anyway, so she still has a simpler mind, so she thinks about talking to the sect leader so that the other party will agree. Elder Nangang, Hai Deifu said with a gloomy look, you are right, Hai is not an unreasonable person. Jinhai Zong's Inlai, you have helped a lot. In terms of emotion and reason, you have to. I can let you go even if I say farewell. But the problem is that you want to take Elder Zhou away. At this time, it is not appropriate. Let alone me, any elder in the sect would think that Hai is like this. The sect leader is no longer good enough. In the Jinhai sect, apart from him, there are a total of 13 nascent soul elders. Ergu and Nangang Xiu are also among them. However, these two talents are in the early stage of nascent soul. If Hai Deifu forces them to stay, Nangang Xiu really has no choice. It's just that Nangang Xiu is still inexperienced. If it were Ergu, there would definitely be no movement. Taking advantage of the high wind and dark moon, he took Nangang Xiu and left here directly. This is the biggest difference between the casual cultivator who has climbed up all the way and the daughter of the family power in the palm of his hand. Sect Master Hai's words are wrong. Xiu still didn't know what the problem was, but said, since Elder Zhou and I came together, we naturally have to leave at the same time. Elder Nangang, if you want to leave, you should leave now. Your contribution during this period is indeed worthy of our agreement at that time. But Elder Zhou cannot do that. He has never made any contribution to the sect since he entered the sect. Hai is not a good person, and Zhen Haizong is not a good person. Since you are guests, our Zhen Haizong supports you, but you must also contribute. Nangang Xiu frowned and entered the Jinhai section. Nangang Xiu rarely saw Ergu. Because she possesses a magic seal, and this magic seal is extremely mysterious, it is very convenient for her to go out and do errands, so she is highly regarded by Hai Deifu. But Ergu was taciturn, hiding his sharp edge, and someone would die as soon as the magic sword was released. Hai Deifu already had a plan in mind. It's not that Ergu doesn't do the task, it's that he feels he can't control Ergu. So, he put Ergu under house arrest. Naturally, Xiu wanted someone at this time. How could he hand him over? Of course, if Xiu leaves and comes back later, he can also pretend that Ergu has left. How can she do anything then? However, Hai Deifu had no idea that above his head, Zuyun was listening with a sneer. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1115. When Xiu said the word we, Zuyun didn't pay much attention at first. But when Elder Zhou was mentioned later, Zuyun suddenly remembered what Luo Lai had told him. There is a man and a woman, the man is silent. But at that time, he subconsciously felt that since he did not appear in the Nine Netherland and the man was a swordsman, of course he would think of the big dog. Because Ergu's natal spiritual weapon is Menghui's magic sword. Of course, after arriving in the spirit world, Ergu might have been afraid that the magic sword would be too conspicuous, so he used a sword to cover up. After all, he also started from the Lingjian sect, and he practiced sword arts from the beginning. Coupled with his thoughts, it is understandable that he disguises himself with a sword. In fact, Zuyun's guess was not very accurate, but it didn't matter. He just needed to know that it was Ergu. But right now, he still wants to see what Hai Deifu will do. If he is stubborn, he doesn't mind teaching the other party a lesson. Inside the palace, Hai Deifu was already a little impatient and issued an ultimatum. Elder Nangang, this sect leader said that if you want to leave, you can leave at any time. But Elder Zhou can't. At least, he should say goodbye to me in person. Xiu frowned slightly, pondered for a moment, and said, I just don't know where Elder Zhou is, so I came here to inform the sect leader first, otherwise, I would definitely have brought Elder Zhou with me. Hearing this, Hai Deifu laughed in his heart and thought to himself, if you find him, can I still be so calm? I saw that he said without changing his expression, Elder Zhou told me after he joined the sect that he encountered a bottleneck in his cultivation, so he will not do sect tasks for the time being. Now that several months have passed, I don't know that he is in the section where to retreat. This sect leader thought you knew. Xiu was stunned. With her simple mind, she didn't know how deep the peak of the late nascent soul, like Hai Deifu, who dared to establish a mountain sect, could reach the city, so she quickly said, then I should call him in the sect. It's inappropriate, Hai Deifu said deliberately, what if Elder Zhou is breaking through the key? Your shouting has disturbed him, isn't it a bad thing? Elder Nangong, if you want to leave, I won't stop you. Zhou, if the elder insists on leaving, this sect leader will not stop him, because Hai was also a casual cultivator and knows that we are accustomed to freedom in this spiritual world. Of course, if Elder Nangong is willing to come back in the future, our Haizong is also willing to take you in. He was the bad guy, and he was the good guy. Xiu only had gratitude on her face, but she was still worried about Ergu because she met Zuyun before she could tell Zuyun that Ergu was here. It's okay for him to be in this section, at least he is in a high position and can talk to Hai Deifu. But if Zuyun is no longer in this sect and asks for someone else, there will inevitably be conflicts. It is true that Hai Deifu is only in the nascent soul stage. But it's true that Xiu has no idea about the stage of transformation. She was worried that Zuyun would be helpless in the face of the cooperation of more than a dozen nascent souls. This is actually a bad thing. Then, I won't leave either. Xiu thought for a moment and decided to go out later and bring Zuyun in. If there is no conflict, I think Hai Deifu will give Zuyun enough face. This was her simple thought, but Hai Deifu rolled his eyes and asked instead, since Elder Nangong has changed his mind, this sect leader naturally wants it? However, can Elder Nangong tell me why he suddenly felt so angry? What do you mean? That's it. After Xiu figured it out, her mood improved and she smiled easily, Sect Master, I met an old friend from the same mortal world. I learned about my sister's whereabouts from him, so I wanted to find her. In addition, the reason why I asked Elder Zhou to leave with me is because that old friend is also a close friend of Elder Zhou. I see, Hai Deifu nodded, and he had some calculations in his mind. When he met an old friend, he left in a hurry. He thought that the so-called old friend was not far from here, and he was more likely to be waiting for news outside. What's more important is that he doesn't dare to visit the sect, as he would only be in the nascent soul stage at most. Rather cautious. Hai Deifu smiled and said, since we are friends of Elder Nangong and Elder Zhou, why not welcome him into the sect? You know, this sect master is thirsty for talents, and he is close to the secret realm of immortality. If that fellow Taoist can stay, I will. It's not a bad idea to start a big business in the spiritual world together. When Xiu heard this, she immediately beamed with joy. The secret realm of ascension is something they all know. It's just that Xiu values her relationship with Nangong Tingfeng more. In other words, most people in the East mortal realm are like this now. Of course it's okay to cause it, but my old man has a weird temperament. If there is any conflict, please be more considerate, Sect Master. Of course Xiu knew that Zuyun was in the stage of becoming a god, so this was a reminder to Hai Deifu. However, Hai Deifu misunderstood the meaning. I can't help but think in my heart, let me worry, that so-called old friend is probably only in the early stage of nascent soul. As long as you enter the sect, you can do whatever I want? It's not like he hasn't thought about attacking Xiu and plundering her magic seal. After watching it for a long time, she found that this magic seal was extremely difficult to obtain. Nangongyan doted on his daughter. This magic seal was refined before Nangongxiu was born, and was then refined into her natal magic weapon using Xiu'er's umbilical blood. In other words, as long as Xiu'er doesn't want to, no one can take this magic weapon away. In comparison, Ergu's dark red knife was different. Although the knife revealed demonic energy, it can be seen that the knowledgeable Haidefu had already found a way to deal with it, so he put Ergu under house arrest. If it weren't for the fact that the sword spirit inside was extremely difficult to deal with, I'm afraid Ergu would have died long ago. Xiu'er happily prepared to inform Zuyun, but she never thought that as soon as she opened the palace door, a Foundation establishment stager fell to his knees with a plop. Sect Master, Elders, I noticed that someone seems to have broken into the sect protecting formation. This sudden sound made all the nascent souls present startled. Even Xiu'er stopped in her tracks, and the figure of Zuyun immediately appeared in her mind. But she was a little unsure. Because Zuyun agreed to wait for her outside. But Haidefu didn't think so. Elder Nangong, did you bring someone in? As he spoke, Haidefu released his pressure and directly enveloped Xiu'er. Xiu'er's face suddenly turned pale. They are both in the nascent soul stage, but she has just entered this realm for the first time. But Haidefu has been at his peak for many years. Furthermore, if he didn't have much ability, how could he dare to found a sect? Xiu'er shouted that she was wronged. She didn't say that she knew Zuyun better, but she knew that Zuyun would never do anything to embarrass his friends. Sect Master, my friend was waiting outside, and I didn't let him in. Besides, I brought him in. I will definitely inform the sect master. Elder Nangong, when the disciple came in to report, he found that the person you were talking to earlier was no longer where he was. As soon as the foundation building disciple heard this, wouldn't the opportunity to make meritorious deeds come? He quickly interjected. Haidefu was furious and shouted sternly, well, Nangongxiu, you came here to say goodbye to me, so you want to delay time? Elders, go to the sect quickly and see where that young man is hiding. At ordinary times, there are several Yuanyings who followed Haidefu and stayed in the sect master's hall in the later period. Just in case of accidents. It comes in handy at this time. The mountain protecting formation was set up by him. Someone broke in during the foundation building period, but he didn't notice it at all. Apparently the other party was also proficient in the formation. The sect master is wronged. My friend was afraid of causing misunderstanding, so he didn't mention joining the section, and I agreed and will go out to find him later. Xiu'er couldn't move and shouted with horror on her face. She has never seen Haidefu's true strength, and she always feels that even if there is a difference between nascent soul stages, it is not big. After all, he has the magic seal in his hand. You know, when Zuyun was still in the Dan formation stage, he used the magic seal to escape the pursuit of the Silver Sword Demon Lord in the nascent soul stage, and still had enough energy to deal with it. But then, she truly saw the cruelty of the spiritual world. If you say you're going to fall out, you're going to fall out. Nangongxiu, this sect leader is not so easy to fool. Originally, I took you in with good intentions. As long as you complete the sect's tasks, you can come and leave when you want. But I never thought that you would actually plot against our Genhai sect. If this is the case, if the sect master does not punish me, how will he establish his authority in the future? Haidefu's face showed no anger, and he winked at a confidant beside him as he spoke. The confidant quickly retreated, but within a moment, several more Yuanyinki rushed into the sect. They are all expressions of gloating. These, like Nangongxiu, were also recruited casual cultivators. Their purpose is different from Xiu'er's, to live a muddle-headed life, but more importantly, to ascend to the secret realm of immortality. If there is a chance, they will leave Genhai sect without hesitation, instead of coming to say goodbye like Nangongxiu. but who knows, since Xiu arrived, their lives have changed. Xiu was unambiguous in carrying out her sect's tasks and did everything properly. It obviously took them a month to complete it, but Xiu completed it in 3 days. In this way, they would not be able to abuse the sect's resources for their own use. At this time, seeing Xiu being suppressed by Hai Deifu, it was natural that he behaved like this. Of course, they also know that Hai Deifu's move is to establish his power to them. There are 4 words to describe it: it is to kill the chicken to scare the monkey. But if a casual cultivator hanging around in the spiritual world doesn't have any skills, would he dare to take the initiative to become a guest elder of a new sect? Even Hai Deifu knew what these people were planning. This is nothing more than a game. But at this time, judging from the scene, Hai Deifu is slightly better. Sect Master Hai, I was wronged. My friend is in the stage of becoming a god. He was afraid that coming here would frighten the sect leader, so I didn't let him in. Xiu still couldn't see the situation clearly, so she had no choice but to reveal Zuyun's state. But all it elicited was laughter. In their opinion, would any friend who has reached the stage of becoming a god still stay in this small sect? Moreover, do you dare to let the transformation stage wait outside? Hai Deifu even burst into tears with laughter. Nangang Xiu, you, a young female cultivator who just came from the eastern mortal realm, dare to scare me, Hai Deifu, with such a thing? I also said that I have friends who are in the tribulation period. And at this time, a lazy voice came from above them. Oh? How about calling your friend who is in the tribulation period and letting me pay my respects? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1116. Zuyun was not polite at all and completely released his aura in the middle stage of divine transformation. The roof broke open and he was already standing in the hall. If there is nothing wrong with Hai Deifu, Zuyun dares to say that his name is written backwards. However, he already knew something about him on the roof. This person was so scheming. Maybe he could force him to find out the whereabouts of Ergu. He still understands the principle that haste makes waste. If Hai Deifu were to take Ergu as a hostage, the only one who would be passive would be himself. Therefore, after he learned the news about Ergu, he did not come down directly, but waited until Xiu was humiliated. Zuyun only needed a look, and the pressure on Xiu immediately dissipated. Xiu was filled with surprises. When she was about to speak, she found that she couldn't say a word at all. She just has little experience, not stupid. After thinking about it carefully, she realized that it was Zuyun who did it, and there was no need for her to speak for the time being. Simply, she corrected her mentality and became a spectator. Senior is here. It's a sin for Hai Deifu to miss him so far. Hai Deifu was so shrewd. When Zuyun looked like he was raising an army to accuse him, he immediately surrendered. However, the flash of light in his eyes was completely captured by Zuyun. Also, I am just one level above them. This is on the opponent's territory. If there is any backup plan in the sect master's palace, he will have to guard against it. Humph! Zuyun pretended to be cold and snorted, Nangang Xiu is a close friend of mine, how dare you not let her go? I met her outside the sect before, and she told me, these I have never been sorry to you Genhai sect. Among all the elders, she has contributed the most to Genhai sect, right? Senior may have misunderstood, Hai Deifu said with an apologetic smile. Junior has always said that if Elder Nangang wants to leave, he can leave at any time. Then why do you rely on your high level to overpower her? Does that mean that I can also overpower you? After saying that, Zuyun shrouded his energy directly towards Hai Deifu. Bang! Haidefu's knees softened and he fell to the ground. If it were an ordinary nascent soul, it would only be enough to kneel down to an incarnation god. But unfortunately, he is the leader of a sect, and he is still in front of many subordinates. Senior. Haidefu gritted his teeth and roared. What, you don't accept it? Zuyun chuckled and said calmly, if I want to destroy your true Haizong, all I need is a thought. But today is a good day. Meeting an old friend in a foreign country is one of the three great joys in life. I won't kill you, nor will I destroy your Genhai sect, I just want my friends to have a good time with you. It should. Haidefu felt a lot more relaxed for no reason. If Zuyun really wanted to take action, all his trump cards would be exposed, and it might also have a great impact on the upcoming secret realm of ascension. He was afraid of Zuyun, but if Zuyun bullied others too much, he would have no choice but to fight to the death. But how could he have imagined that Zuyun Tangtang would be in the stage of becoming a god, but he would also be designed to reach the stage of nascent soul? Zuyun smiled slightly, turned around and walked towards Xiu'er, suddenly releasing the restraint on Xiu'er. Before Xiu'er could react, Zuyun said, let's go, I'll take you to find your sister. From the time Zuyun appeared here until he was about to leave, Xiu'er never heard him mention Ergu. She thought he didn't know, so she quickly said, Zuyun, and Zhou Huanghua. Zhou Huanghua? Who is that? Zuyun turned his back to Haidefu and others, with a questioning tone, as if he didn't know them at all. Xiu'er was immediately shocked. She and Ergu broke through the 9 Netherlands of Yasha realm together. If they had a common language, Zuyun was the one who spoke the most. Ergu is taciturn, but when it comes to Zuyun, he talks eloquently. He didn't believe that Zuyun would forget Ergu's real name. Could it be that Zuyun felt that Ergu's talent for cultivating immortals was not worthy of following him? Just when Xiu'er was about to ask a question, she suddenly saw Zuyun wink at her. Xiu'er was a little confused, but Zuyun was not. He had already designed everything to cope with Xiu'er's various changes. Is Zhou Huanghua a fellow Taoist you met in the spiritual world? These words were undoubtedly a reminder to Xiu'er. At this time, Xiu'er understood. Although she didn't understand why Zuyun did this, since Zuyun said so, he must have a reason. No, fellow Daoist Zhou came from the 9 Netherlands with me. We help each other and we have agreed to come together and go together. Xiu'er also became serious and said. Since you made an agreement with him, he can't break his promise. Zuyun nodded, then turned around and said to Haidefu, I want to take Zhou Huanghua away as well. Does sect leader Hai have anything to say? Haidefu's expression suddenly tightened, and his heart that was originally relieved because he didn't conflict with Zuyunkai became suspended again. Ergu is a key part of his plan. How could it be handed over? Even if Genhaizong is destroyed, he can't bring out 2 dogs. Senior, Haidefu took a deep breath. He really didn't want to fight, because he was not completely sure about dealing with Zuyun. Elder Zhou has not completed any tasks with our section Yuli, I shouldn't even let him go. Oh. Seeing Haidefu using the same excuses to deal with Xiu'er, Zuyun already knew that Ergu must be in a bad situation. Although I don't know why, I also know the seriousness of the matter. He glanced at Xiu'er, then at Haidefu and said, do you know what you are talking about? Senior, it's good that you are in the stage of divine transformation, but our Genhai sect is not a fool. If someone can take away the elders of our sect at will, then the existence of our Genhai sect will be a joke in the spiritual world. Oh. Elder Zhou has never made any contribution to Genhai sect since he joined the sect, but Genhaiguo has given him a lot of cultivation resources. Hearing this, Zuyun couldn't help but smile. Sect Master Hai, he said calmly, how many resources are needed for cultivation in the nascent soul stage? Xiu'er was kind to me back then, and I will not refuse her request. Therefore, I can make up for the cultivation resources you have lost. After saying that, he took out a bottle of Pei Ying Dan from his arms, and then opened the cork. The fragrance of the medicine overflowed, and all the nascent soul stagers present took a deep breath. The best elixirs above Zuyun, the elixirs refined with burning sky flames, how can they be ordinary? Suddenly, even Haidefu's confidants looked at him expectantly. Without waiting for Haidefu's response, Zuyun once again said something shocking. I still have 100 bottles of this elixir. For Xiu'er's sake, I will not destroy your Genhai section. Of course, the premise is that you can release that Zhou Huanghua safely. As Zuyun spoke, he waved his hand, and white light flashed on the ring. In front of Zuyun, 100 porcelain bottles were neatly placed. Now, even Haidefu was moved. He is a discerning person, otherwise he would not have recognized Ergo's magic sword as a top-quality spiritual weapon. Everything he did was to gain a great opportunity in the secret realm of ascension. The purpose of great opportunities is also to achieve breakthroughs. And these infant training pills can also allow him to break through. To say that I am not moved would be a lie. This is something completely visible. But the problem is that Pei Ying Dan can only help him break through to the stage of divine transformation. But the secret realm of immortal ascension is very likely to allow him to break through to a further realm. However, he is not sure where the next realm will be. Or, can he be destined to win such an opportunity? Haidefu and Tianren were fighting, and the expectant looks in the eyes of his confidants finally gave him a decision in his heart. The secret realm of ascension will be opened one day within 3 years. Maybe it will be tomorrow, maybe it will be the last day of the 3rd year. If I can break through the divine transformation stage and take a group of divine transformation stages with me at the same time, perhaps the possibility of fighting for a big opportunity will be higher. Sharpening a knife makes it easy to chop firewood, and that knife. He could give up for the time being and wait until people like him reach the stage of spiritual transformation through cultivating the infant training pill. Wouldn't it be extremely easy to go find Ergo then? One thought can be understood, all thoughts can be understood. Haidefu no longer had any scruples and immediately said, Senior is so generous, I would rather obey orders than to be respectful. Elder Zhou has been in seclusion in the sex-forbidden area these days. I will go and have a look. If he is awake, I can kill him brought out. Xiu'er said happily, if he is in critical moment of retreat, we can wait. Zuyun felt relieved when he saw that his goal had been achieved. But how could he not know what Haidefu was thinking? He wants to gain wealth through danger. But myself? Why not? However, he still had to perform the drama he was supposed to perform. He sat aside calmly and said calmly, I listen to Xiu'er. Sect Master Hai can do whatever he wants. After saying that, he made a gesture of invitation. When Haidefu left, several nascent soul stagers stared at the 100 bottles of pills on the ground without caring about their greedy eyes. Zuyun knew what they were thinking and sneered in his heart. I am not afraid that you are greedy, but I am afraid that you are not greedy. If a person has no weaknesses, how can he take advantage of them? There was no way he could forget Haidefu's murderous intention earlier. Xiu'er, Zuyun chuckled, winked at Xiu'er, and said, why don't you introduce these fellow Taoists who have worked with you? Xiu'er knew that her thinking couldn't keep up with Zuyun's thoughts, so she simply followed what she said and said with a smile, okay, this is Elder Ren, this is Elder Fu, and this is Money. Elder, this is Elder Sunday. They all joined the sect around the same time as me. Zuyun nodded with a smile and said, since you and Xiu'er are around the same time, you must be taking care of each other? It just so happens that I have some pills that are no longer useful to me, so why not give them to a few of them as my thanks? Zuyun's unassuming attitude made these 6 people extremely relaxed and expectant. The elixir that is not useful to you is useful to us. I saw Zuyun take out 6 bottles of pills from his arms, and each person got 1 bottle. This elixir is called soul-shaping pill. It is also specially used for the nascent soul stage. It is used to solidify the soul and enhance the soul power. He didn't introduce the infant training pill, but he introduced the soul-shaping pill. That's because the calamity seems to be tempering the body, but in fact the extreme pain requires a very strong soul to support. If your mind is slightly relaxed, your inner demons may arise. You have to practice hard for thousands of years and pay it forward. There is no doubt that for those of them who are at the peak of the late nascent soul stage, the meaning of the soul-shaping pill far exceeds that of the infant training pill. In the eyes of these 6 people, greed disappeared and was replaced by ecstasy. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1117. The peak of the late nascent soul refers to the body's internal and external cultivation that has reached the extreme. It's not that there is no soul method. But soul magic is extremely scarce, so this soul-reinforcing elixir is more precious than other elixirs. At least in Xianxia, that's the case. Things are rare and valuable. Not to mention, physical training can be polished by spending time. But if the body is polished to a certain extent, it will lead to disaster. The stronger the soul power, the greater the possibility of surviving the catastrophe. The meaning of soul-shaping pill lies in this. You know, even if Zuyun is now damaged, the soul-shaping pill will still have an effect on him. From this, we can know the meaning of the soul-shaping pill. Thank you, Senior. I'm flattered that Senior is so generous. The 6 of them couldn't care less about their dignity and fell to their knees. In the world of immortality, they are mothers even if they have breasts. Zuyun laughed, stood up and helped the 6 people up one by one, and said, "You guys have gone too far. I have already said that this is your care for Xiu'er." Xiu'er curled her lips secretly. She had never seen these people gloating about their misfortunes before, but it was already a good thing if they didn't get in trouble. What care? But this was Zuyunzi's method, and it was difficult for her to expose it. Although she was still feeling strange. Haidefu's confidants stood near the head of the palace, with jealousy and envy in their eyes. But they couldn't ask for it from Zuyun. Because the elixir was given by Zuyun on his own initiative, if they dared to ask for it, what if they made each other angry and were killed? Since Haidefu is not here, they cannot activate the grand formation in the palace. After these 6 people stood up, they also stepped aside. They also had a sense of propriety. It was okay to please them, but excessive flattery might arouse resentment. But I have made up my mind. When the sect leader brings Zhou Huanghua, who has only met once, he will definitely say a few good words to them. So what if it makes Haidefu angry? I don't want to leave you here, I have my own place to stay. With this soul-shaping pill, the more powerful their souls are, maybe they can join the sect forces in the world. Under Zuyun's deliberate efforts, these nascent soul stages had been divided into 2 factions. This is one of his purposes. At this time, in a crypt of Jinhai sect, Haidefu was playing with the porcelain bottle of Peiying Dan, which Zuyun first threw to him. After walking all the way to the depths of the cave, Haidefu put away the elixir and recited a mantra silently. There was a sudden rumble in the depths, and a stone door appeared out of thin air and slowly moved to one side. Before it was fully opened, Haidefu had already stepped into it. In the dark and cramped cave, Ergu was lying on the ground dying, holding a knife with a red light in his hand. But the amazing thing is that there is no trauma on his body. Even if you penetrate it with your spiritual consciousness, you can't find why he is like this. This is Haidefu's method. Elder Zhou, have you thought about it? Haidefu was a little cautious and kept a certain distance from Ergu. Think about it. A few months ago, if he had been careless in the slightest, he would have died under that red knife. Now this red light still makes him fearful. Hey, Ergu raised his head with difficulty and said with disdain, if you want this knife, just come and get it. I am a useless person now, but I can't do anything to you. Elder Joe, don't think of Hai as a fool. Do you really think I don't know how spiritual this knife is? But you are lucky. Today Elder Nangong found a person in the transformation stage to help you. However, I'm afraid, you are talking nonsense, so I have to use some means to make you sleep and hand you over. Otherwise, I will be in danger of killing. Ergu sneered, kill if you want. Where's all this nonsense? I came from a village in the mortal world and have died countless times. If I blink my eyes, I will take your surname. Elder Joe, someone really saved you this time, and it was Elder Nangong's old friend. Originally, the senior in the transformation stage only took Elder Nangong away, but Elder Nangong insisted on leaving with you. Mingren, don't tell secrets, I have a lot of enmity with you, life and death depend on your red mouth and white teeth. I don't want to die, and you don't want to be trapped here. So all I have to do is go out unconscious and unable to speak. Make a deal. Hai Defu actually has another idea, which is to put a mark on Ergu so that he can find him again after he breaks through the divine transformation stage. If the knife can be snatched away before the secret realm of ascension opens. That's really powerful. That's why he told Ergu so much. In his opinion, Zuyun was just Xiu'er's backer, and he took Ergu away just for Xiu'er's face. In other words, it is impossible for Ergu to be by Zuyun's side in the future. He is alone. Or don't you just let him have it? If he hadn't been able to refining the knife in his nascent soul stage, how could he have allowed Ergu to live? Hai Defu, I've seen a lot of treacherous people. Stop pretending. Either kill me or let me go. Ergu still didn't believe it. The biggest flaw in Hai Defu's words was the word transformation stage. He has also heard about the situation in the spiritual world. I understand Xiu'er's situation even more. As long as Xiu'er has someone in the spirit world, she won't sneak out of the Yaloo demon sect and break through the 9 Netherlands with her. Now, what are you talking about in the transformation stage to get her? How ridiculous. Zhou Huanghua. Hai Defu was also very troubled to see Ergu, who was so stubborn. He had been here for several months to coerce and bribe him. But Ergu refused to be persuaded, and even accumulated strength and fought back several times. If he didn't have some tricks, he would have died under this knife. But he wanted the 100 bottles of paying pill very much. This was a necessary resource for the rapid expansion of Genhai sect. It was also the key to his rapid breakthrough in the God transformation stage. But now, Hai Defu gritted his teeth and said angrily, then I swear an oath to the heavenly Dao, can I? He, Ergu laughed strangely and said, what does it have to do with me whether you swear or not? The heavenly Dao is never fair, I don't believe it. You. Hai Defu was furious, but he couldn't do anything to Ergu. This won't work, that won't work either. How can you believe that I really want to let you go? Ergu turned sideways with difficulty, holding the knife in his right hand and supporting his head with his left hand, looking like he was watching a show, and said, if you let me go, I will naturally believe you. But what if you talk nonsense? The person outside is in the spiritualization stage. If he wants to attack, I will definitely die. Ergu said indifferently, that's your business, not my problem. I only care whether you let me go or not. If you let me go, I will naturally believe you. If you don't let me go, I will also stay here to learn the truth with peace of mind. Looking at Ergu, who looked like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water, Hai Defu's blood boiled. Fortunately, he had trained it a long time ago. After taking a few deep breaths, Hai Defu said, since you don't believe in my oath to the heaven, then you swear it. I have only one request, that is, you only say that you have been in seclusion these days. This is not a lie, right? You said in the last sentence that you were enlightened here. Hey, Ergu was immediately happy, I don't even believe in your oath to the heaven, How can I swear the oath to the heaven? Hidefa was mad. But he was also glad that he had said it to Zuyun in advance. How can you believe me? He stared at Ergu with his eyes. If you let me go, I will believe you. Impossible. I don't think it's possible either. Ergu changed his posture again. It was obviously him who was under house arrest, and he was also at a disadvantage. But Hidefa couldn't do anything to him. Zhou Huanghua, Hidefa gritted his teeth and said, "Don't go too far. I can let you go, but my bottom line is that you don't gossip. Don't you want to go out? What are you going out for?" Ergu sneered, "If you go out, you still have to intrigue, and you have to find a secluded place with no one to practice. It's better to be here to understand the truth. At least, you won't kill me. I'm afraid there is no safer place in the entire spiritual world than here." Ergu is usually taciturn, but he never talks nonsense. People who can follow Zuyun and Daegu, who are so eloquent, must not be bad. After all, they have come to the spiritual world from the mortal world by themselves. Although there is a lot of help from others, more of it is actually his own efforts. Zhou Huanghua, I didn't expect you to be a scoundrel. Sorry, Master Hai, maybe Nanggong Xiu didn't tell you my nickname? My nickname is Ergu. You. Hidefa was furious again. A Yuanying cultivator, how could he not care about his face? It is unreasonable to tell Xiaxi's humble name openly. How could he know that since he started cultivating immortals, Ergu has always been holding the mentality of a small person? No matter what the world is like, I will remain unmoved. No matter how you scold or beat me, as long as I am alive, I will have a chance to avenge these grudges. In fact, he did not lie to Hidefu. He was imprisoned here and his spiritual power was restricted. He could not do anything else. In fact, he has been enlightened all the time. In his mind, he has practiced countless combinations of Yaluo magic skills and swordsmanship. It is true that he does not need to go out. Of course, if Hidefu let him go, he would not stay here. Zhou Huanghua, you are very good. If it weren't for the fact that Senior Zhu gave too much, I really couldn't bear to use the pills I have treasured for many years to deal with you. After a long time, Hidefu took out an extremely mysterious green pill from his arms and swallowed it directly into his mouth. Senior Zhu. Ergu was slightly stunned. Zhu is not a big surname, but it is not without. But from beginning to end, he never thought that maybe Zuyun found Xiu'er, so he came to find him. Spiritualization stage. Has Zuyun reached the spiritualization stage? Just when he was confused, Ergu saw Hidefu's whole body was green, and his 7 orifices were also spraying green mist. He, Zhou Huanghua, this is the Wangsuan sea poison pill, which is extracted and tempered by tens of thousands of poisons in the sea. Use this pill, and you will never wake up in your life. It's a pity that I only have 2, and I originally planned to use them in the Ascension secret realm, but there is no way, I can only use them on you first. As soon as the voice fell, 7 green mists suddenly drilled towards Ergu, and also drilled into Ergu's body through his 7 orifices. After a while, Ergu was also green all over. The green light on Hidefu's body faded, while Ergu's gradually rose. Until, Hidabao returned to his original state, and Ergu was already green all over. If it weren't for seeing his chest still rising and falling, anyone would think that Ergu was dead. Humph, I won't kill you next time I see you, it's a waste of my Wangsuan high poison pill. I'll have to refine you then, and I don't know how much poison I can recover. Hidefu's eyes fell on the dark red knife and murmured to himself. He wanted the magic knife, but he didn't dare to take it. He could say that Ergu failed to break through and suffered a backlash and coma. But he couldn't hide the knife. Because Xiu'er will definitely ask about the situation of this knife. A few hours later, Ergu also returned to his original state. All the mysterious poison was scattered around Ergu, but he could not feel any trace of poison at all. Only then did Haidefu put away the hatred and cruelty in his eyes, picked up Ergu by his waist, and walked towards the sect leader's hall. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1118. Senior, Senior. When Haidefu first entered the sect, he looked distressed and shouted to Zuyun full of guilt, Elder Zhou failed to break through. He was backlashed by spiritual power and is now unconscious. Zuyun was startled and secretly felt that something was wrong, but looking at it like this, Ergu was no different. When he was worried, he took him from Haidefu's hand, then put his hand on Ergu's pulse, and checked Ergu's pulse. Body. However, the Wangsuan high poison pill is so mysterious that its toxicity is reduced to 0, and Zuyun, who is in the middle stage of divine transformation, can't even notice it at all. How so? Xiu also came up in a hurry, but even Zuyun couldn't see it, so how could she do it? But after all, we came to the spiritual world together, so it would be a lie to say that we are not worried. Zuyun shouted in a deep voice, did you just find out? Yes, Senior, after Elder Zhou and Elder Nangong came here together, they told me that they could break through at any time, so I arranged for him to practice in the most secret place of the section. I originally hoped that Elder Zhou would suddenly have some influence on the section. It's a great help, but who would have thought? He should have just passed out. Zuyun's eyes became a little sharper. But Haidefu was sure that Zuyun could not find any clues, his face was not red, his heart was not beating, and he was convinced and said, yes, I just fell asleep and heard the movement inside, so I rushed in. Take him out. Zuyun squinted his eyes, seeing that Haidefu's demeanor didn't seem to be fake, but he already knew a truth. Seeing is not necessarily believing. Although he couldn't find out what was wrong with Ergu, he was suspicious of Haidabao from the beginning to the end. Otherwise, we wouldn't have taken out the elixir to separate the nascent soul stagers who stayed here. Zuyun, how is he? Xiu asked in a low voice. Zuyun didn't respond, but he was thinking deeply in his heart, what was Haidefu's purpose? The most valuable thing on Ergu's body is the magic knife. This magic sword is extraordinary. Back then, Ergu was able to kill enemies across ranks with just the power of this sword. How similar is it to his chaos sword? Nujiao also said that her natal magic weapon is a magic sword, and the style she drew is exactly the same. Moreover, Ergu got this magic knife from Menguia. But the problem is, this magic knife is well held in Ergu's hands. Senior, I really don't know what's going on. Seeing Zuyun with a sullen expression, Haidefu's heart skipped a beat. He had indeed prepared his words, and even used Wansuan high poison pill. If Zuyun is unreasonable and fights against him, he will simply steal the chicken and lose the rice. But no matter what, he must prepare a countermeasure. Haidefu put his hands behind his back and quietly gestured to several of his confidants, meaning to listen to his orders and take action when it's time to take action. Sure enough, those confidants immediately stood up straight and might take action at any time. Haidefu's confidence comes from the formation in the main hall of the sect. They jointly control the formation, but they have the strength to kill the gods. But this is also their last trump card. Once the formation is activated, the sect will be completely destroyed. Therefore, Haidefu does not want to have any conflict with Zuyun unless it is absolutely necessary. But at this time, he had to guard against Zuyun's reaction. Do you think I will take action? The actions of these people naturally could not escape Zuyun's spiritual perception. Zuyun, who was already unhappy, reacted with a sudden surprise. I pretended not to know Ergu, but if I cared so much, it would be a flaw, so I hurriedly changed the subject and put pressure on Haidefu. Don't dare. Haidefu responded quickly, but his expression did not dare to relax at all, and he was even more vigilant towards Zuyun. Take him out first, Zuyun calmly put the two dogs down. Xiao'er quickly stepped forward to support them and led the two dogs towards the outside of the sect leader's hall. Even though she had all kinds of doubts in her heart, Xiao'er knew that this was the right time for her to speak based on Zuyun's previous experience of blocking her mouth. And it was most appropriate for her to take him away. She still understands the principle that talking too much leads to mistakes. Hai Deifu, Zuyun watched Xiao'er and Ergu disappear before putting away the divine eye technique. After being unable to see Ergu's situation, he naturally chose the divine eye technique. He didn't know it by looking at it, but at this glance, he actually saw that Ergu's meridians were faintly glowing with green. Combined with Hai Dabao's unreasonable actions, it was not clear that Hai Deifu was poisoned. He was also careful and knew that since the other party dared to do something under his nose, he was obviously on guard against it. That's why I sent Xiao'er and Ergu away while there was no trouble. However, Xiao'er didn't know that Zuyun not only asked her to leave Jinhai sect, but also thought that she would just leave the sect master's hall. He found a secluded area in the sect and released the two dogs. In the main hall, Hai Dabao's eyes flickered. "Senior, do you have any other orders?" "Tell me," Zuyun said calmly, "what did you do to him?" "What the seniors said, the juniors don't understand. Hai Deifu is still arrogant, because ordinary monks simply cannot see the poison of Wangsuan Hai poison pill. Also, if Zuyun hadn't used the divine eye technique, he wouldn't have been able to tell." "I'll give you one last chance," Zuyun said with a normal expression. "Xiao'er asked me to take Elder Zhou away. I gave you so many elixirs in exchange for them in the hope that you would understand, not beg for anything. I didn't want to bully the weak, but if you don't follow the rules, don't blame me for being rude." Hai Deifu shouted that he was wronged. "Senior, I really didn't do anything." Zuyun was furious. "Take out the antidote to the poison, or die." Speaking of this, if Hai Dabao can't understand, then why should he be the sect leader? His expression changed drastically, and he had no time to think about why Zuyun could see the poison, so he immediately activated the main hall formation. Boom! The array pattern lit up, and blue and green light flooded through it, instantly enveloping the entire hall. The sour and rancid smell followed, and poisonous mist also emerged from the array patterns. Zuyun quickly held his breath and slapped it out with one palm without ceremony. He has been tolerant, but in fact, he is completely helpless against Ergu's poison. Without using the divine eye technique, he couldn't tell that the two dogs were poisoned, which shows how powerful the poison is. That's why he wanted to ask for an antidote pill. But what I didn't expect was that Hai Deifu would act so simply. Then there is nothing more to say. Suzaku fist. The poisonous mist hit, Zuyun punched out, and the sky was filled with flames accompanied by a shrill roar. Chichichi. When Suzaku arrived, the poisonous mist was directly burned away. But this formation is Hai Deifu's strongest trump card, the last resort to stay in his lair. How can it be broken so easily? One wave just calmed down, another wave rose up, and the poisonous fog filled the sky and struck again. That's it? Zuyun sneered again and again, punched again, and then used the void-breaking spiritual eye technique, and all the formation eyes fell into his eyes. He was slightly surprised when he saw 4 confidant elders not far behind him, each standing on a secondary formation. When Hai Deifu launched his attack, he also retreated to the main formation. There are 5 people in total, 5 in each zone, but there is another faint green line connecting them. How high is Zuyun's formation attainment? The simplicity of the road leads to the same destination through different paths. When the formation is activated, it all starts with the independent formation eye, and then is released by the formation pattern in various situations. He could tell at a glance that the 4 of them controlled the 4 directions of the poison array, and then gathered the poisons from the 4 directions at Hai Deifu through the green thin line, and finally controlled them by Hai Deifu alone. Zhen Haizong. I think it's better to call him Du Haizong. No wonder this green poison has a hint of blue, it turns out they are all poisons from the sea. Zuyun didn't have many ways to deal with the poison. It was not difficult to break the formation, but it was a bit cumbersome to avoid the poison and accurately break up the green thread connecting the 5 people. However, Zuyun has rich experience. After finding out the flaws of this formation, he only needs to have the appropriate means, and it will be extremely simple. How dare you join forces to kill me even though you are only in the nascent soul stage? Zuyun snorted coldly and used the Suzaku fist to force away the poisonous mist again. Taking advantage of this gap, he suddenly stretched out his left hand. 5 elements trap formation. The 5 colors of spiritual power were separated and surrounded Haidefu, immediately cutting off the connection between him and the other 4 people. The center of the poison array was isolated, and the poison of the poison array naturally no longer threatened Zuyun, but a new problem came again. It was the poisonous power sent by the 4 henchmen that rushed directly into the barrier formed by the 5-color spiritual power. The balance of the 5-color spiritual power may be broken at any time. If Zuyun is even slightly distracted, the 5 elements trap formation will turn into a self-destruction formation. Fortunately, Zuyun dared to make such a decision, so he would naturally have a way to deal with it. Just divide and attack. Let the sword energy out. He was not allowed to move randomly, and there was no poisonous attack, so he naturally did not need the Suzaku fist. He turned his hand and extended 2 fingers, and a bolt of lightning sword energy suddenly rushed towards one of his henchmen. Beyond the sword energy, it will arrive in an instant. There was only a muffled sound, and one of the nascent souls fell down, clutching his lower abdomen. Haidefu's liver and gallbladder are about to burst. He never imagined that Zuyun was not only an formation master, but also an extremely accomplished formation master. From the time he activated the formation to now, in just a few breaths of time, a secondary formation hole was actually broken open. With the combined strength of 5 people, they can't do anything to each other. This is one less person. Zuyun killed 1 person, but did not take Haidefu seriously at all, and then turned his hand with another thunder sword energy. Zi. 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 3 consecutive attacks. How could the 3 nascent soul stages block a blow from the god transformation stage? Not to mention the extremely fast thunder sword chi. Although Jin Lingli's sword energy was fast and sharp, it was not destructive enough. The Lei Li sword chi pierces the lower abdomen and will directly destroy their nascent soul. Looking at the 4 henchmen lying on the ground without a sound, Haidefu's eyes flashed with anger. He wanted to escape, but it was impossible, because he didn't dare to move at all because of the formation that trapped him. But if I hand over the Wangsuan high poison pill? He felt that he could not live. He is the real trump card that can save lives. But at this moment, I can only let the elders who have been recruited by the guests take action to buy me some time. As long as I leave this 5-color formation, I can use my blood to escape, and after spending hundreds of years cultivating myself, I can escape to the sea. Haidefu immediately made a decision and shouted to those in the nascent soul stage, "Elders, if you don't take action, you will also die later." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1119. If before, Zuyun had acted so unreasonably without any evidence, it would definitely arouse the hatred of some nascent soul stage enemies, especially after Haidefu showed his ability to trap Zuyun. But obviously, they were somewhat unwilling to take action at this time. It's not just about being soft on others. For these casual cultivators, temporary favors can only be temporary. If there is an absolute chance to rob and kill a monk who is a level higher than himself, It is tantamount to getting it from a secret realm. Techniques, elixirs, resources. To name a few. But what Zuyun used to separate them was not only the pills he gave them before, but also his own charm. The most conspicuous among them is the 4 words of keeping your promise. During the conversation with Haidefu, Zuyun kept emphasizing that he would not embarrass the other party for Xiu'er's sake. Even after Ergu came out unconscious, Zuyun never took any forceful action. But when he finally chose to take action, Zuyun used a very clever sentence. Take out the antidote pill. In their opinion, Zuyun had known for a long time that Ergu was framed, but he would not take action because of the promise. It was really Haidefu who was ignorant. In addition, Zuyun spoke in an approachable manner and did not have the airs of an ordinary monk. This made several nascent soul guest ministers feel that instead of staying here and following the lost power of Haidefu, it would be better to be friends with the god transformation stage. The key point is that the senior in the transformation stage is generous. Comparing the two, and taking a comprehensive look at it, these Keking elders chose to wait and see without hesitation. I'm sorry, Sect Master Hai. I wish Senior will act clearly and not kill innocent people indiscriminately. Yes, who told you to lie to Senior Zhu? Senior Zhu gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Master Hai, from today onwards I have nothing to do with Genhai section, please don't implicate us. Every word spoken by each person was like a sharp knife pointing directly into Haidefu's heart. He turned against him in the face of battle, which immediately made him look ashen. In his expectation, these people would hesitate at most, but as long as he spoke eloquently, he could win a chance. One breath, just one breath is enough. But he never thought that he wouldn't have a chance to breathe. You traitors! Haidefu was furious, but to no avail. Relying on heaven and earth is worse than relying on yourself. He has rich experience and found the key to solving the problem. Senior, I am willing to give you the elixir. He shouted, and the pressure suddenly disappeared. When he looked carefully, the 5-color spiritual power was gone. He took a breath, but he didn't dare to be careless and said, Senior, I have the detoxification pill, but I'm afraid that after I hand it over, you will take action. Finally, he also put his words into words, because under the circumstances at this time, no matter how much he said, it would be meaningless. His survival is the key. Zuyun sneered and said, how can I know that the antidote pill you gave me is an antidote pill? Senior, there is no need for me to lie to you. You can let Elder Joe take the elixir, and then let me go after he shows signs of improvement. Aren't you afraid that if Elder Joe gets better, will I kill you? I believe Senior Zhu won't. Zuyun immediately became happy. I don't even believe that I will let you go. Why do you believe it? Haidefu smiled confidently and said, Senior Zhu only knows that Elder Joe was poisoned, but he doesn't know what kind of poison he was poisoned, right? Talk about it. The poison pill I took for Elder Joe is called Wangsuan High Poison Pill. It is refined and condensed from thousands of poisons in the wild sea. I have detoxification pills on my body, but I can only take 7 or 49 pills in a row. Only then can the poison be completely released. After that, he took out a blue medicine bottle, but did not uncork it, and said, Senior, I can take out an antidote pill from this bottle and let Elder Joe take it first. Since you can see that if you are poisoned, you will definitely feel that the poison is reduced after taking the elixir. This is the only way to determine the authenticity of the elixir. As long as there are signs of subsidence, you will let me go, and I will put down the medicine bottle. You have a good plan, Zuyun chuckled and said to Yuanying Chi beside him, Elders, please go find Elder Nangong and ask her to bring Elder Joe back. Afterwards, Zhu will have his own thoughts. Thank you very much. Several nascent souls were smiling in their hearts, wishing Senior that he was really generous. Choosing a team is really important. Senior, please wait a moment. I'll go look for you right away. After the 6 Yankee people left the hall one after another, Zuyun looked at Haidefa with interest. His trap formation has been dispersed, and the main hall formation has been destroyed. It only takes one thought to kill Haidabao directly. But it was obvious that Haidefa was also aware of the situation at this time. His hands were firmly on the medicine bottle, and he also concentrated his spiritual power. He looked as if Zuyun would destroy the detoxification pill if he took action. He has seen many such people. He really didn't dare to gamble his life. The importance of Ergu to him is self-evident. If there is a detoxification pill, leaving for a nascent soul stage is nothing. Zuyun could also imagine that Haidefa would have to pay a huge price if he wanted to escape. Otherwise, he would not be forced to stay here to confront him. After lighting a stick of incense, Xiu hurried back, followed by several other nascent souls, and at the same time, another person ran in holding 2 dogs. You can get a pill now. Zuyun smiled. I hope Senior will keep his promise, otherwise Hai will take Elder Zhou's life even if he fights to the death. If Wangsuan Hai poison pill doesn't have my antidote, I'm afraid it can only be unlocked during the tribulation period. Haidefa looked at Zuyun's expression and felt a little proud in his heart. What he was fighting for was the moment when Zuyun waited for the elixir to take effect. At that time, his mind must be relaxed. As long as he takes a breath, he can use bleeding escape to escape from here. Therefore, the first pill taken out must be real. As for the other pills in the bottle, there is no other elixir, only this one. The Wangsuan Hai poison pill is so precious, and so is the corresponding antidote pill. He has no choice but to escape. Xiu'er, go get the elixir. Zuyun smiled at Xiu'er and said. Xiu'er looked solemn and walked forward slowly. On the way here, the elders had already explained the situation to her. She never thought that Haidefu, whom she trusted so much, would be such a vicious person. Elder Nangong, take it. Haidefu poured out a pill from the porcelain bottle and put it in Xiu'er's hand. Xiu'er turned around and walked towards Ergu. She wanted to take it to Ergu herself. Haidefu's gaze also followed. But how did he know that he was waiting for Zuyun to be distracted, so why didn't Zuyun wait for him to be distracted? As soon as his eyes left, a flash of lightning suddenly appeared in the hall. Let the sword energy out. It was the method Zuyun used to kill 4 of his confidants before. Zuyunzong had many methods, but only the sword technique was the fastest to activate. But when facing Yuaniinki, who is weaker than him, he doesn't need a big move at all, but just wants to be fast, accurate and ruthless. Therefore, it is enough to release the sword energy driven by thunder spirit power. Zi La. Purple light passed through his body, and suddenly, a black hole of blood appeared in Haidefu's lower abdomen. The nascent soul was completely shattered, and a surge of spiritual power poured out from the wound. Haidefu's face was full of disbelief. He could never have imagined that Zuyun, who was so thoughtful, why didn't he try the authenticity of the elixir? But the matter has come to this, and it is absolutely impossible for him to escape. He was extremely sad and angry, and smiled miserably. Hey, Senior Zhu, I don't know where aroused your suspicion. It's a pity, this detoxification pill only has one. One is enough. Zuyun smiled lightly, took the elixir from Xiu'er's hand, put it on the tip of his nose and smelled it gently. No wonder we need 49 detoxifying pills. It turns out that this pill is also made from 49 corresponding poisons. Fighting poison with poison. Putting down the elixir, Zuyun looked directly into Haidefu's eyes and smiled lightly. I forgot to tell you, I am still an alchemist. Haidefu's face turned extremely pale, and finally his spiritual power dissipated and his vitality disappeared. Several nascent soul elders looked at each other in confusion. They also didn't expect Zuyunhui to suddenly kill Haidefu. Originally, they thought that Zuyun was forced to have no choice but to be led by the nose and end up in Hai Deifu. As a result, Hai Deifu died in front of his eyes. Xiu asked in confusion, Zuyun, aren't you afraid that this elixir is fake? Ha ha ha, Zuyun chuckled and said, Hai Deifu wants to escape, the best time is when I am distracted. You know, this method of testing whether a pill is effective first was proposed by him. So, the first pill must be real. Yes, it's true, Zuyun nodded and said, but he doesn't know that I can recognize pills by smelling them, whether they are poison pills or detoxifying pills. As long as you smell the corresponding smell, you can know the reason. What to make? Of course, the prerequisite is to have a solid foundation and memorize the smells of various materials. Then you kill him. Kill him because he wants to run away at any time. How can I let him go if he dares to harm Ergu? Instead of looking around for him in the future, it's better to deal with him directly. As he spoke, Zuyun couldn't help but have a ruthless look. At this time, those Yuanying elders felt that their understanding of Zuyun was completely wrong. Because he mentioned the word two dogs, it shows that he and Elder Zhou already knew each other. In other words, from beginning to end, Zuyun has been designing Hai Deifu since he came in. For a moment, these 6 nascent soul stagers were all trembling with fear. It's ridiculous. Earlier we thought that Senior Zhu was a kind-hearted person. Zuyun, what about Ergu? Even if you refine the elixir, I'm afraid you still need to collect materials and refine it again, right? Xiu was still worried. It doesn't matter, Zuyun put away his murderous intent, smiled slightly, and said, the poison of this pill is very fine and silent, so it is not easy to find. It will take a long time to take away Ergu's life. So, for the time being, the 2 dogs are not in danger. Besides, as he spoke, he turned to look at the other 6 people. Everyone, Elder Zhou is my idol. If you can help me, I will owe you a favor. These 6 people were stunned. This is. Let them take care of the 2nd dog. My code of conduct is very simple. If anyone offends me, I will kill him. If anyone helps me. He didn't finish speaking, but waved his hand. The 100 bottles of baby training pill that had been placed on the ground before fell in front of the 6 people. I'll give you all the elixirs as a reward. If I can find poisons from the sea to refine the detoxification elixirs, I'll be very grateful. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1120. The world of the universe has begun to glow with vitality, and elixirs can produce spiritual wisdom. You can imagine how terrifying it is for ordinary elixirs to grow. For Zuyun, where is the world he is sitting on? But an endless treasure house. Not to mention the elixirs for alchemy, there will even be some inexhaustible treasures of heaven and earth. Of course, it will take some time to reach this level. The world of the universe is not a complete world after all. But Zuyun knows that if the rules of the universe are completely perfected, then his path to immortality will be truly smooth. Senior, there are so many, we deserve it. The leader, a Yuanying, could not stop the greed in his eyes, but he still maintained his rationality. They were given so much that they were a little scared. Take people's money and eliminate disasters for them. Although working for Zuyun was not to eliminate disasters, Zuyun gave them so many elixirs casually. The strength demonstrated by this is self-evident. This is not an ordinary transformation period. Zuyun smiled slightly and said, you all are sensible people. Elder Zhou is my close friend. You have also heard that Hai Deifu gave Elder Zhou the Wangsuan sea poison pill. This pill is made from poisons in the sea. Yes, the same goes for the antidote. The wild sea is so vast that it would be difficult for me to search for it alone. It would also be difficult for you to find the nascent soul, so these pills can be used as rewards, and you can also use them as experience. I will be more confident when I attack the gods and deal with the catastrophe in the future. Zhu Yun knew their concerns, so he still mentioned cultivation in his words. Cultivation is the main business of a monk. He blends them all together so perfectly that they feel neither difficult nor a waste of effort. After hearing this, these people were naturally very excited and agreed without thinking for long. Another person said, "Senior Zhu, if we find poison, how can we give it to you?" Zhu Yun laughed and said, "In this Zhenhai sect, the sect leader and his confidants are dead. You are the people with the highest realm here, so of course you can stay here." Everyone's eyes lit up. This was such a wonderful feeling. "After you obtain the poison, store it well in Zhenhai section. I will come to pick it up after a while." "How about it?" It couldn't be better. Everyone was happy and put away the elixir. 100 bottles, divided among 6 people, is completely enough. In addition to the soul-shaping pills given by Zhu Yun before, the pills for soul refining and yuanying refining were all available. They were so confident that they wished they could take all the pills at this time, and then cause a disaster and become a god. After the arrangements were made, Zhu Yun urged them to leave here and go to the sea to look for the poisonous mist. Then Xiu asked, "Zhu Yun, what about me? Am I also staying here to take care of the 2 dogs?" Zhu Yun touched his forehead, but he had not thought about Xiu's whereabouts, but looking at her hopeful eyes, Zhu Yun could only refuse. "I'm sorry, Xiu, I still have things to do, and you are only in the nascent soul stage. It would be somewhat inconvenient for me to take you and 2 dogs with me. In fact, I have offended some tribulation stages in the spirit world, and it would be too dangerous to follow me." Xiu blurted out, "I'm not afraid of danger." Zhu Yun was dumbfounded, but still shook his head and said, "I know you are not afraid of danger, but you can't die in vain. Do you know how dangerous it is during the tribulation period? A single look can make us all annihilate. Moreover, you are the only one who nascent soul stage. On the contrary, you can still help me if you stay here." Xiu felt a little aggrieved, but what Zhu Yun said did make sense. "Don't worry, I won't leave for the time being. You stay here and I can make some preparations for you." Having said that, Xiu has nothing more to say. Zhu Yun spent several hours setting up the 9 turning 9 yang formation and the Do turning star shifting formation for the main hall of the sect, and made 2 corresponding formation discs. As long as you don't come during the combined period, you can't safely break into it. In addition, Zhu Yun also set up several self-destruct formations around the sect master's hall and taught Xiu how to activate them. If you are in danger, you can run into the palace and survive for a while. After that, Zhu Yun took out some more talisman papers and drew some auxiliary talismans for Xiu. Change the world and change the talisman, breath-gathering talisman, invisibility talisman, and so on. After everything was settled, Zhu Yun was about to leave, but Xiu called out to him. "Zhu Yun, I originally wanted to find my sister." "Ah," Zhu Yun patted his forehead and said with a smile, "I almost forgot. In this way, I will help you go to the Juyu land to have a look. You are going alone and you are only in the nascent soul stage. It is really inconvenient, so I will help you go there. Find her. When the time comes, I will send her here myself and stay here with you. How about that?" "Very good." Xiu finally smiled. "Farewell." Zhu Yun picked up the 2 dogs, turned and left. In the huge Zhenhai sect, only Xiu was left in the nascent soul stage. However, it is enough. Although those 6 elders are powerful, there are only 6 of them after all. It is better to arrange some things for the ordinary disciples in the sect and do their little bit for Ergu. When Xiu was in Yaluo demon sect, she was Yu Tangzi's microphone, and she also had some tricks. So, she issued a sect mission and asked the alchemy monks in the sect to go to a place relatively close to the sea to find poisons. Zhu Yun took his 2 dogs and headed west along the coast. After more than 100 miles away from the Zhenhai sect, They turned to the sea. After finding that there was no movement, he took Urgu directly into the universe world. Originally, he wanted to enter the immortal mansion, but the space in the immortal mansion was too small and far less convenient than the great universe world. The most important thing is that the world of Dazhu was once the Zilang's secret realm, and Urgu has also been there several times, which may make him more accustomed to it. The most important thing is that the universe world will not influx of void chaos force for no reason, and there are ancestral trees and holy mountains to protect it, so life is safe. Ancestral tree, please take care of it. Zuyun placed the two dogs at the root of the ancestral tree, raised his head and said. Zusha said, I feel a very mysterious poison in him. Well, Wangsuan high poison pill is a poisonous pill made from thousands of poisonous substances in the sea. It is very troublesome to solve, but I am already preparing it. No wonder, ancestral tree shook the tree and turned into a green humanoid shadow, then put his hand on Urgu. After a moment, he said, there is no sea in the world of the universe. If there is a sea, it can still be of some help. Zuyun smiled and said, as long as you can take care of it here, I will prepare the elixir. Toxins are eroding his vitality, but what is most indispensable here is the power of vitality. Zusha smiled, his body lit up with green light, and then it shrouded Urgu. After 3 breaths, the green light disappeared. My original power can temporarily prevent the poison from destroying his body, but that's all it can do. It can only last for a month at most. A month. Zuyun frowned, this time was less than he expected. Yes, after 1 month, my original power will be useless. However, this is plus 1 month, not that he will die after 1 month. Zuyun suddenly realized that he was anxious and had misunderstood the meaning. What the ancestral tree expresses is that within 1 month, the poison will not affect the 2 dogs, but after 1 month, it will be whatever it is. It's already very good. Zuyun turned his back and looked at the world lake. Suddenly he realized that the lake seemed to be much bigger. He couldn't help being stunned and asked, is this lake big? It's big. Ancestral tree smiled and said, since the real dragon took up residence here after recovering from his injury, the lake has slowly begun to grow. Oh! Zuyun's eyes lit up. A true dragon is a divine beast. Although there are true dragons with different attributes, in essence, true dragons mostly belong to the water tribe. Correspondingly, another divine beast, the phoenix, belongs to the fire tribe. Water and fire do not mix, but dragons and phoenixes are auspicious. In short, this I haven't figured out the relationship, and I haven't had much communication with the real dragon. As you said, Master, it would be better if he stayed quiet. Okay, I don't have time to pay attention to him at the moment, so let him stay there quietly. Zuyun smiled and bid farewell to the ancestral tree, waved to the holy mountain in the distance, and entered the immortal mansion directly from the universe world. Not in the small courtyard as usual, but as usual when entering the immortal mansion, Zuyun appeared in the cave mansion. I always feel that I forgot to ask the ancestor tree about something. Zuyun murmured and then walked out of the cave. Everything is business as usual. Only behind the sword mountain, red light bloomed. He was slightly startled, then ecstatic. Isn't this red light the color of the dragon suppressing stone? Zhenlongshi took a gamble and chose to side with Zuyun. And Zuyun did not disappoint him, giving him a fortune and letting him enter the Hualong Pond. Now that red light is emitting from the dragon transformation pond, it is obvious that he has succeeded in transforming into a dragon. Only, will he turn into a stone demon dragon? Still a real dragon? With excitement in his heart, Zuyun was already standing on the top of Sword Mountain, looking down from a high place. The red light was even brighter and more dazzling. Boom! Suddenly, the Hualong Pond exploded, and a column of red water rose into the sky. The momentum was so great that it seemed as if the entire immortal palace was shaken by it. However, this shock came and went away quickly. After the water column rushed to be parallel to Zuyun, it also stopped. Wow! The water column fell again, and a redder true dragon stood straight in front of Zuyun. I've met the master. The sound of the dragon suppressing stone sounded. Zuyun's face was full of excitement and he couldn't speak, so he could only nod slightly. The lifelike dragon scales are like a dream, all red and faintly glowing. Are you a real dragon now? Zuyun took a breath and asked seriously. The problem is not about the real dragon, but about whether the dragon suppressing stone has been truly created. The dragonfish itself has true dragon blood, and it is extremely pure. But the dragon suppressing stone was originally a stone that had been warmed by the dragon demon emperor's essence and blood for thousands of years before it developed spiritual intelligence. It can be said that he is of demonic dragon bloodline, not real dragon bloodline. It's a real dragon, the red dragon said with confidence, and transformed into a man in red clothes out of thin air. Master, please give me a name. Zuyun beamed with joy, looking at the festive red dress. Then let's call her Xiahong.